Hey guys, this is Alex, and welcome to the Two Dudes Brews and Reviews podcast. Today, we're talking about the 2011 sports drama Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. We also talk about our plans to write a song together and our hate of gimmicky, spicy beers. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even tell your friends about us. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the show.
All right, Gooder. We're back at it, like wrap plastic. What's been happening, brother?
I started recording my own music recently, trying to make a little album thing. I don't know, I can't attest to how well it's going so far. I'm learning.
We're going to try to record a little something after the podcast tonight. That tastes like...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know what to make of that.
It's really intense.
Whoa. It tastes like brisket.
Tonight we're drinking Brooklyn Brewery Black Chocolate Stout. It's a Russian Imperial Stout.
It tastes like winter. It tastes like fireplace. And I mean that in a positive.
This thing just slapped me in the face. I feel like I'm more awake now.
It's spicy, right?
Yeah.
Very peppercorny.
Wasn't that Exo Cabeza, that Stone beer?
Kind of tastes like
that?
this. Yeah.
This is very good.
Like hot chocolate. Because I think the Stone, that was, it was like actual, like, authentic Mexican hot chocolate inspired.
Uh-huh. And that had like peppers in it too.
It kind of tastes just like this. I went to Rivertown recently and had a beer there that was called, oh shit, I can't remember.
You tried the Death?
Death. Mm. It tasted like this, but bad. Because they use it to like cure the meat and stuff there, the brisket. Like a more palatable way to take in that beer. It's really good.
I've had that Death stuff too, and it was horrible.
Yeah, it's like, I had like a 4-ounce little shot of it almost. It was almost like a double shot, and that was way more than enough because I was fucking hurting after having that on the way home.
They should do like a challenge where like they'll like fill a 32-ounce thing and somebody has to drink it all, and then you can win a prize.
It made my stomach hurt so bad because
it was
like
surprised you did
hot.
that.
It was hot as fuck, like in a Scoville level. It was so bad.
It's brewed with habaneros,
yeah,
isn't it?
It was so rough.
That's such a gimmicky thing.
Yeah.
Who wants a spicy beer?
It was a really good way to marinate the meat though, because the brisket was incredible. I mean, the brisket was really tasty.
I've only eaten from there one time. I think I had jackfruit. Like it was.
They do have that, yeah.
Like a replacement for pork and stuff.
They had a beer there that I had was it was black currant sour, and it was called cryptocurrency. It was really great. It was really, really rich.
So the name alone made you order it?
Yeah, it roped me in. It was going to the moon, man.
They knew the way to your heart.
Yeah. But yeah, man. We're gonna listen. We're gonna listen, but we're gonna make music after the podcast. Kind of hyped about it. Might do it poorly, but we'll do it. One hit wonder incoming.
It's a process, bro. It's a war of attrition, like Billy Bean says in this movie.
Mm-hmm. So we are doing Moneyball, and this is my suggestion. Currently wearing an Oakland A's hat.
You're becoming the thematic one.
Indeed. I rewatched this movie for the first time earlier this year. I may have watched it from when it came out till then, maybe once or twice, but it kind of like got forgotten. Yeah, I remember watching this movie like the year it came out, or like a year or two after it came out. And I thought the whole time, I was like, bro, when are they going to play baseball? And as a kid...
You were probably pretty young when this came out, yeah.
This was 10 years ago, man. So I was 12 when this movie came out. Kind of nostalgic, because I remember like sitting on I was young to where like I would be so restless that I wouldn't sit on the couch. I would sit on the floor and watch a movie, you know, like play with the rug and shit.
Yeah.
And I always just thought like, man, like when are they going to fucking play baseball? It was definitely a movie directed towards adults for sure. But I still liked it back then. Like I knew I liked it, but I didn't know why. But as an adult, man, I fucking love this movie. Something about its sincerity and seriousness all shown in like a subtle, long process that this movie kind of takes. Like from start to finish, it kind of feels like a real journey. This movie's like 2 hours long, and man, honestly, it kind of flies by to me.
I thought so too.
Like I'm always super enveloped. Like they're really. Oh, we just got some feedback on the thing.
I have my phone in my pocket. I totally forgot.
I think the static like just came through your wedding ring. I'm not even kidding.
I'll keep my left hand down then.
It's all right.
I'll tie it behind my back.
Speaking of wedding rings, here's the first way to get into the movie. Billy Bean wears his wedding ring, man. Did you notice that?
No, I did not.
It's just a small little thing I caught, and I don't know if it played much into like the way the character, like it's not really like the focal point of the film. Like obviously Billy Bean, he's divorced and everything, and you know he has like split custody with his daughter between him and his ex-wife. But yeah, he's always wearing the wedding ring, and it's really subtle. It's never like brought any attention like directly. Like it's not like a thematic part of the film, but it's like a small thing like that gives the character a little bit more depth.
Even the relationship with his wife is like kind of brushed over. Like it's not the point of the movie, so it's not like a negative in my opinion. But you kind of like can make assumptions just based off their interaction, and you only see them together in one scene, but it tells a lot. Billy may not be over this whole thing yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to, because that's what I thought when I'm like noticing it. I only noticed it a few times, in particular at the end of the film when they're in the film room. We'll get there, but it's shown pretty directly because he has his hand on his mouth and stuff. But yeah, man, I absolutely love this film. And it's something that revisiting as an adult, like I guess the themes of fatherhood, business practice, and
like challenging the system.
Yeah. And I'm a numbers guy. Like, yeah, man, I'm super intrigued by like stats and stuff. And you know me, I'll rattle off numbers to you about fucking a bunch of bullshit, and like I'll stumble with my words because they're not written out in front of me. But
my brain probably produces steam coming out of it when you say this shit to me because it's like way over my head. But I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, man, you're gonna be rich, bro. But yeah, man, you said you watched this movie for the first time earlier this year, right? You had never seen it before.
This year, after my first viewing, I think it was like back in like maybe February or March. I remember just thinking, yeah, that was a really good movie. And then I kind of forgot about it for a while. And then you brought it up for the podcast. And after my second viewing, I still went, yeah, that was a really good movie. Now, I finished my third viewing today before you came over. After that, I was like, this might be like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Something about that third watch really made me, it was like an emotional gut punch, kind of.
Well, this is kind of one of the reasons I brought it up is because I watched this movie before I watched, what did we do the last podcast?
The Thing.
The Thing, yeah. I was off one evening when I watched it, and I had like a few beers. It's just like very rare for me to like sit down and have a drink at home by myself. I remember, here's how my movie going process goes. I'll be in the morning, I'll be taking my morning shit, and I'll be reading through my emails, and I get emails from Vudu, and they'll show me like deals and stuff on movies. And I think Moneyball was on sale when I bought it. And I was like, I'm going to watch this later tonight. And so I did. And I remember at the end of it, like feeling, I mean, obviously I was a little liquored up at that point, but at the end of the film, I was just like that emotional gut punch where I felt like there was a hole in the middle of me. Like, like it felt like there was a sinkhole in the middle of my chest of just being like, damn. It's so subtle in the way and then masterful the way the movie like pulls you in. Because at its core, let's just lay it out, like the movie's about finance. When it comes down to it, the movie's about what you can get for like the better deal. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like they're basically coupon cutting for baseball players. I think just watching like the character development, it feels really satisfying in a way that not many films really capture, because it almost is like slice of life. It's not like a blockbuster, and it has nothing to do with like romance. It's all about like a change in a character's perspective, and like, I don't know, it's just, it feels so meaningful. Let's just hop into it. Like we got our main character, Billy Bean. And obviously this movie's based on a true story, and I'm sure it takes its liberties, and this is something I didn't really pay much attention to.
We're not reviewing this like a documentary.
Yeah. But Billy Bean, our main character, he's GM for the Oakland A's, and they're coming off of a season where they lost to the Yankees in 2001 in an elimination game for the World Series to go to the World Series. So it's like, I forget, it's like ALS champions
like
or something.
ADSL or something like that. Like neither, we should probably say neither of us are big baseball people.
No. But I'm familiar with like football to an extent, like AFC and NFC, you know, so they lost the game and then they get gutted. So like the three best players get sold off. And this is kind of a thing that, you know, as I've realized as an adult, like there's subtleties to the way businesses run and like the things you love, like music industry, they like rape the artists and the record labels like pimp them out all for like the love of their music, and they get nothing by the end. movies are extremely expensive and sometimes the money goes down the drain. There's tons of people that are involved in production. Like, here's an example, the Alec Baldwin thing that happened recently. The whole system, like the big machine that runs these things, are like super complicated. This is like one of the few films that's not a documentary, that shows you kind of the darker sides of the way, baseball, or, you could think about the NFL. Like the NFL guys, 75% of NFL players go broke. It's kind of a dark film if you like kind of look at like what the problem is.
Well, it shows how cold and like cutthroat like the business aspect is.
And we get to see that with like Mark Shapiro and stuff, the GM of, I believe he's the GM. I don't know if he's the owner, but he talking about trades and stuff when he goes to the Cleveland Indians to try to work out trades and stuff. It just seems like kind of like a dire way to like look behind the scenes. I really love the way they like go into the movie. It's like, you're fucked. And like, we got to unfuck ourselves. And how do we open? We open with that, like they lose, because we get like a little documentary.
There's a lot of like archive footage in this movie used as like a storytelling device. And yeah, the beginning uses the real footage of the World Series, whatever that elimination tournament is called.
So they lose our three best players. And so now they've got to rebuild, and it's like the beginning, the end of the season, basically. Which is something I didn't really think about. I don't want to get too off topic, but I was thinking about what it must be like to work inside one of these, not companies, Jesus Christ, one of these teams. Like, their season is like a small part of like the actual playing
the
is like
entire process.
Yeah. Because like when the season ends, it's not like they just go and stop working. Like then you move into like what we get to see at the beginning. Like they've got to go scout and stuff. We got to prepare for spring training because the World Series. I think the World Series is going on right now.
I believe it is. Yes,
or probably nearing its end. But
couldn't tell you who's playing in it though.
I think Houston and I don't remember. See, we don't give a fuck. We only care about movies. Goddammit. But yeah, so you just get to see like we've got to rebuild. I really like the way Brad Pitt comes to the owner at the beginning of the film. And this kind of gives you an insight of the way Billy Beane works, because he's like he doesn't like to just talk.
Yeah, he's no bullshit.
Yeah, straight up. And like we'll get to see that in the first 15 to 20 minutes. He's really disappointed. And even the owner could give two shits, like whether they won or not. Like to him, like it's just, we're used to this. Like it's not a big deal. But Billy wants to win.
He's trying to advocate for more funding.
Yeah, he needs more money.
The owner of the team is just like, you got to use what you got.
Yeah, he says, we're a small market team and you're a small market GM.
And he kind of leaves the conversation at that, because like he just says, do you want anything else?
Yeah, is there anything else I can do for you?
And like that's a very polite way of saying fuck off. Yes.
It's something I really enjoyed because we get to see the inside of the way Billy Beane works. He wants to win. And like, as he should. That's his job. His job is to want to make his team win.
I think that this is something it cuts away to during multiple parts of the film, but I think his motivation for winning is because his own career in baseball was kind of a failure.
Yes.
And like the movie kind of gives you these cutaways to like him coming out of high school and like getting picked up to play in the NBA, like MLB right away. I know sports, damn it.
It's funny as fuck.
But yeah, I feel like it kind of uses that as like a storytelling device.
Yeah.
To tell you like he's a failed man and he's trying to like get that fire back.
And speaking of like failed man, like we get to find out later, like through the storytelling, the way it's shown to us, is that he's divorced, and like that's another failure in his life, is that he doesn't have a wife anymore. Like he basically lives on his own. He only gets split custody of his daughter and stuff, and like we only get to see him interact with her a few times throughout the film. And
even she seems kind of worried about him.
At times, like it's like she's so worried that he's going to lose his job and stuff. But anyway, we get to like see them rebuild. And one scene I want to talk about in particular is the scout meeting. The first scout meeting goes into like Billy Beane. He's a no bullshit guy, because these fucking old geezers are sitting there like talking about where they're scouting out players and like, what do you think about Perez and like all these players, and he's the type of guy that when he shows up, his dick's already been in the room for 2.5 minutes, or like he's got a nice swing, classic swing.
It seems like their metric for a good player is kind of based on these really weird perceptions of like not just the way the player plays, but like who they are outside of baseball. Because they make a comment about one guy. They say, "What about this dude?" They say, well, he has an ugly girlfriend.
She's a 6 at best.
He has no confidence if he's got an ugly girlfriend. It just kind of comes out like they're like bullshit.
Exactly. And like they almost seem like fans in a way.
Yeah.
Like they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really understand what the problem is. He explains that to him. He said, what's the problem? What's the problem? He keeps asking him, what's the problem? No, you're wrong. What's the problem? He's like, the problem is that there are rich teams, and then there are poor teams, and then there is 20 feet of crap, and then there's us. At this point, like, it seems like all hope's lost, right? Like and this is like we're establishing a problem, and now we're gonna have to solve it through the story. And so as we move through it, like Billy Beane has a meeting with Mark Shapiro, the GM of Cleveland Indians, and he's going in for a trade. And like this scene particularly, I really loved. And this is like one of those subtle ways, because this movie isn't like some spectacular show of special effects or like big, beautiful, gazing, landscapey shots. Like it's very all story, like all talk, all dialogue. But this is one of the scenes where I thought this scene was framed really well to show you the power dynamic.
Yes.
Because Billy Beane is like a fish in a room of sharks. And the way he's set up, he's sitting at the desk, right, with Mark. And behind him are like Mark's closest advisors and stuff, like probably like the guys from some of the athletic trainers and some like we get to see our Jonah Hill.
Brad Pitt is literally surrounded.
Yes. There's like 9 people surrounding Brad, and like people on the couch, people standing near the door. And then like another way it's shown is that Mark's like kind of just chilling. Like Mark doesn't really want to talk. He doesn't like respect him. It comes off in like a really disrespectful manner. It's like Billy's fucked here.
It seems like he's trying to be like buddy with him though, but being a dickhead at the same time.
Yeah, he's being fugazi. He's being a little bit of a shitter, He's like kind of like flexing on him a little bit.
He makes the comment like, well, out of the players that you can afford respectfully, and I think he says that 2 or 3 times before Brad Pitt says like, all right, cut the bullshit.
Yeah. And it's kind of to drive home the point that, like, we're fucking poor. Like, this is a poor team. We get to see the introduction of Jonah Hill. Mark Shapiro is about to, like, give him the sell, basically. They're about to trade a player. They've negotiated. And Jonah Hill's character interrupts and, like, whispers in one of Mark's advisor's ears. And then it's, like, a game of telephone. And basically, Jonah Hill is saying, like, his name's Peter Brand. He's saying, no, we shouldn't trade this guy away. I really I love the way coming out of that room, like Peter Brand and Billy Beane's first interaction.
Like the eye contact they make when like Brad Pitt's walking up to him. He like stares him down like in his cubicle all the way to like walking to him.
I really like that. Like I love how steadfast, Brad's character is. Excuse me, this beer's giving me burps. What percent is this before I suck it down? It's a 10%er. Slow down, boy.
I'm not feeling it yet, though.
It must be nice. I'm burning up over here.
You also just ate 6 pieces of pizza before we came down here.
Hey, to be fair, they're small slices, goddammit. They're very small slices. This is like a 10-inch pizza.
All right.
Cut me a break.
I'll give you that.
I'm hungry as fuck, okay? He's like, I'm Peter Brand. He's like, I don't give a fuck what your name is. What just happened in there? This is another thing that I didn't really understand until like a few viewings later. Why was, Peter Brand, Jonah Hill's character, so reluctant to say what was on his mind right there in front of the rest of the office?
Well, it'll probably get him fired.
I guess I just didn't understand why it's a big deal to like discuss. But I mean, I guess like it's like they're the enemy.
It's like revealing company secrets to another brand. It's like if Coca-Cola gave their recipe to Pepsi or something. This interaction is great, though. I think Brad Pitt's a little condescending to him because, like, here's the power dynamic thing at work. Peter Brand is, I think he says, I've been on the job for, like, a few months. Brad Pitt says to him, like, is this your first job in baseball? And Jonah Hill replies, it's my first job anywhere.
Yeah.
So this kid is, like, naive as fuck.
At least on the surface it appears, right?
Yes.
And this is something that I really enjoyed throughout the film. I really liked watching Jonah Hill's character, like, blossom. Because, like, as we move into it, Billy Beane, he purchases, he basically buying a player. He buys Peter from the Cleveland Indians. I want to talk about that as well, the way that's revealed. But it's like the dynamic duo. Like, it's said throughout the film once, Billy Beane starts firing off a couple of the scouts and stuff. He's like, it's just me and you, Pete. And it's something that I really enjoyed. Like, as they like gain success and stuff, you like see their confidence start to boost and stuff. Like, they're more comfortable. because the way Jonah Hill's character is introduced to us, he's like this timid and reserved guy. He's afraid to speak his mind, and like, you know, but we really get to see him, like, even Billy Bean, he helps push that through. He's like, you have to like believe in this, or like, do you believe in this? And he's like, yes. And he's like, then what are we talking about? Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, we have to stick to the plan. Like, we can't be reserved in the way we operate. Like, we have to like keep pushing what we believe in. We have to like show these motherfuckers what they're wrong.
These two, as an on-screen duo, they have so much chemistry. And I think it should be said that this is 2011. Jonah Hill, I think this was his first big dramatic role. He wasn't really slotted into that that position yet. Like, he had just come off of like Superbad and like all those like Judd Apatow comedies. So seeing him in this at the time was probably pretty different. But he plays that shy type so perfectly. I think it's like really expressed through his like mannerisms and his like facial expressions. It's a perfect contrast to Brad Pitt, who's like the confident, macho. I don't know, something about it just works.
He's like very stoic in a way.
Or yeah, like, that's a good way to put it.
Like very focused on the task at hand.
I love odd couples like this in movies when it's done right, at least.
Yeah. Because they're like almost complete opposites. Like, Billy has the experience and Pete doesn't. Billy needs Pete, and I think it's mentioned like this is an apprenticeship almost kind of thing. Billy says, I think towards the end, like before the last game of the season or something, he's like, you know, if this thing don't work, like I may not have a job next spring, or like, and he's like, you have an apprenticeship, like you have something on your resume now, like you'll be fine. He's like, I just want this thing to work, and it's just like something that, like, I like the master and the apprentice kind of relationship, but they're like, they slowly become like almost friends. But I think even towards the end, like, I don't even really think Billy really acknowledges it until like towards the end of the film. But like, they really have like created a bond, and we'll get to see that later, like during like some of the trades they make in the office and stuff. I feel like they were the focal point of the film. Besides like the players and stuff, we'll get there. But like, the movie's not about baseball.
No, not at all.
Like, to its core, it's not really about baseball. It's about like these two characters trying to change the game of baseball. Like, it's not about like, I don't think they even like show like a game, you know, like and if they do, it's like in that montage that we get into, like during the streak and stuff they go on.
I think the longest part of the movie that focuses on like the game of baseball is when they're on their streak. And like I think they're like 19 wins in a row, and they're trying to get the big 20. They show a lot of that game right there, where they have like an 11-3 lead, and then the other team like ties it up somehow.
11-0, and then they get
That's like the one scene that they actually show like multiple plays and stuff. Shit, they do the tension in that one just as good as they do all of the dialogue scenes.
Yeah. Even in that scene, we can just talk about it now. It's not a big deal. We'll come back. But like in the streak, kind of has like a faux documentary kind of feel to it. They like will overlay the announcers, like the commentators of the game, like when it was happening, over top of Billy just sitting in the workout room. It's so subtle, and it happens kind of like undetected, but it's such a good way to like give anxiety and like show the stress and the tension built within, because it's never like, it doesn't really feel like it's focused on Billy in a way. Like, he's there, but like you're kind of just experiencing like the game happening, but you're not even watching the game. It's just telling you, fuck, we're fucked. Like we're fucked, man. And like, and you get cutaways to like Billy and the scouts and stuff. Like, he has like PTSD, man. Like, I feel for his character, because it's like, and we should talk about that. Like, you know, he didn't have the most successful baseball career. He like was traded multiple times to different teams, and he ended up at the Oakland A's. But
he was told when he was like getting scouted, like they like kind of like pumped him up, like saying like, you got everything. You're about to be like the next, you know, like you're gonna be like an all-star. And that's his motivation for like saying fuck you to the scouts, because if you think about it, up until this point, the scouts have let him down. Like, they're continuously letting him down as he's the leader of them. And I think one of the scouts even mentions, like, when he brings Peter in to like the first scout meeting, when they say like, here's the plan. Even when the scout says, I just want to remind you all, this is the man, and he answers to no one. We make suggestions. And he makes decisions. Yes. Which I thought it was nice. At least like one scout was like, hey guys, just so you know, like, he's our leader and we have to follow him. And like, this movie kind of comments on leadership in that small way, and it's not really like a
complete focus of the film. It feels like you have to like convince your, coworkers or, your subordinates, like, hey, like, this is the plan and we have to execute this plan. And if they're not on board, man, it's like a coup. Like, they are like, no. I can't remember. I'm going to pull up the IMDb real fast. Actually, some of the characters in this film, do you know that half the people in this movie are like ex-baseball players and stuff?
Yeah, I know at least a few of them are. One of the lead scouts,
yeah,
that's kind of like a mini antagonist. Apparently, in real life, that guy hates Billy Beane,
yeah,
and thinks that he ruined baseball.
I think it is so meta. Yeah. Like, that's so dope. Yeah, his name is Ken Medlock.
He probably holds like a real, some kind of manager or scout position in real life, I would assume.
He was a former pitcher for the Commodores in the 1970s, and then he worked, he was a coach. But anyway, yes, in real life, he hates Billy Beane. He thought he ruined baseball. And to an extent, Billy Beane does ruin baseball at the end of it, which is great. Like, he achieves his goal. But yeah, I think it's so masterful the way they pull this off. Even one of the coaches, which is played by Phillip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
One of the best.
He plays Art Howe. Even Art, because they designed this team to be played a certain way, and Art will not start Chris Pratt's character. Hattenberg. He won't start him on first. He keeps putting Pena on first because they believe Pena's a better first baseman. But Hattenberg, Chris Pratt's character, gets on base more, which is important to win games. Like, you want to score.
That's the entire basis of the theory, which we haven't really explained the theory yet.
Which I don't know if I can do it very well, but I can do my best. Or if you wanted to get a crack at it,
I'll try my best, I guess. The entire theory is that baseball overvalues and undervalues certain players based on things outside of what really affects the game, like star power and stuff. And he says, do you think Giambi just got drafted to the Red Sox, I believe, in this movie?
Yep.
But he says, like, he's a decent hitter, like, he gets on base sometimes, but, like, is he worth the $7.5 million that the Red Sox are paying him?
And in Jonah Hill's mind, no.
Yeah.
Because he kind of anchors in, or like, what's that word? Sorry, I'm so bad with vocabulary.
Hones in.
Yeah, he shepherds in. Fuck. You know what I mean. He embraces the called Bill James theory on baseball. It kind of tells you in the film, like, Bill James, he wasn't like a baseball player or had anything to do with baseball. He worked at a pork and beans company.
Yeah.
He was like a security guard for a pork and beans company. Jonah Hill's character, Peter Brand, he went to Yale, right, for economics, but he works at a baseball, baseball team.
The verbiage, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He works for the brand.
Yeah. And so, like, he brings in the idea of, like, you only have so much money to spend. Why don't you spend money on players that actually do things rather than, like, have a name to them? Here's an example, like, in the current events, like Patrick Mahomes, he's a quarterback for the Chiefs, and last year he had all this hype, and he played really well last year. But this year, he's not doing very well. Like, he doesn't have that same oomph that he had last year. And now everyone's kind of writing him off this year. Everybody's kind of like, he's not on this year. Like, he's not performing well. And it's like these are these guys' jobs, and, like, their job is to perform well. But it's like, the Sharks, man, like, as soon as they smell blood, man, they fucking hit you.
Yes.
It's kind of the same idea. Peter Brand explains to Billy Beane that, like, look, it's a good thing that you got Giambi off your payroll. You have more money now. You have more money to spend. And then we kind of, as Peter Brand gets hired on, we get to see Peter Brand's thought process. He's like, we need to buy runs, not players. And so the whole point is we're going to build a team that will get us, I can't remember how many wins, but they need X amount of wins to be projected at where they were last year without these three key players that they lost. So we recruit, like, a pitcher. We recruit David Justice, which is kind of like a has-been type baseball player. He's like 40-something. We recruit Chris Pratt, which is Hatterberg, plays first base, but he's never played first base.
Yeah, he was a catcher that fucked up his elbow.
Yeah. Can we talk about him real fast? Because I love the way he's introduced.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the scout meeting with Peter Brand, and they like everybody's like, "Oh, what the fuck, man? Like, what are you doing?" One of the scouts says, "One small problem. Who's going to play first base?" And he's like, "We're going to teach one of them." And then enter, which I think is so funny.
Which is probably mind blowing to these scout guys. Like, we got to teach them.
Yeah.
They have to be an expert like when they go into this. Chris Pratt, man. What a random casting.
This is before...
Like Guardians?
Yeah, this is before that. This is before Chris Pratt was like in everything. Because Chris Pratt's a superstar now.
He used to play like the schlubby guy on Parks and Rec.
Yep.
And somehow he became like muscular hero guy in every movie now.
Well, performance-enhancing drugs are a hell of a thing, Gutter.
Like, I'm glad he got in shape, but I mean, I don't know.
Can I have a small side track here? Like,
go for it.
Okay, I hope everyone knows that, like, in the Marvel movies, all these guys are under non-disclosure agreements for their steroid use.
Really?
And it really bothers me because it sets standards that aren't achievable naturally. Chris Hemsworth that plays Thor is so jacked. He's on so much shit. Chris Evans that plays Captain America, he's on so much fucking steroids. Chris Pratt, I'm sure had... This is not to deny anyone's hard work, but look, these are $1 million movies with $1 million actors. They are going to be paid to do performance-enhancing drugs, and they're not allowed to talk about it.
Probably,
it's something that bothers me. Like The Rock never talks about how much steroids he used, but everybody knows The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, is jacked as fuck. And the guy's like in his 50s.
He's so much bigger now than when he was even like a pro wrestler.
Exactly. And
that's weird to me.
When you're a pro wrestler, when he probably did that, he was probably at his peak. You know, you're talking like late 20s, early 30s and stuff. You are at your athletic prime. You are supposed to peak, and then you're supposed to dip in your 40s and 50s. When you get that big, I'm sorry, it's not natural. And it's something that just, small sidetrack, but that shit bothers me the way, I don't think people talk about men enough. Like like the way men are viewed in society. Men are supposed to be like, yoked and fucking manly and stoic, and like we don't get to talk about our problems as much. And like boys see superheroes as like the shit.
I didn't think about that.
Have you ever had an action figure and your action figure not be jacked? Like when I was a kid,
No.
all my Power Rangers were yoked as fuck. It just means like
They always have the most defined like biceps and shit.
Exactly. I'm just saying like some things aren't achievable naturally, and like the way that the media markets men to young kids, really young boys in particular, bothers me. That's just a small sidetrack. Anyway, Chris Pratt's a great guy though. You know, I like Chris Pratt.
It's funny. I just rewatched Fight Club recently, which like Brad Pitt's also in.
Excuse me.
And there's a scene where when they're on the bus and him and Ed Norton they see like an ad for male models. Brad Pitt says, "Is that what a man looks like?" And like Ed Norton's like, "Fuck no!" Like,
yeah,
it's unachievable.
Exactly. It's fucking marketed to you, bro.
Yeah.
You buy this fucking cologne, you buy this haircut, you buy this clothing, you're gonna be that guy.
I didn't think about the kid influence thing. Like, I was thinking like, well, it's not like a sport, so they're not like cheating.
But they are.
Like USADA's not gonna come knock on their door or anything.
No. But it's just it's a small way that the media kind of manipulates the way people view men. And I was talking to my girlfriend's mom about this once, and I was just saying like, I just remember like making an off comment, like she was saying, "Oh, he's so hot," and I was like, "That's what steroids do." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "You didn't know that?" I'm like, "You don't really think about that, do you?" Like I said like something like, I don't know who we were talking about. I was just saying like, I think we're talking about Chris Hemsworth. She's like, "Oh, Thor is so hot." And I'm like, "Yeah, steroids are great." Like, not to mean that Chris Hemsworth ain't a good looking guy, but like you can see pictures of him in his 20s shirtless, and it's like a natural physique. And now like his arms are bigger than his head. You know, it's just like it's funny as fuck to me. Anyway, yeah, Chris Pratt's a great guy. I like Chris Pratt. He does really great in this movie. He plays like a shy, unconfident ex-baseball player turned superstar by the end of the film, which is great. You know, he hits the winning home run, man.
He portrays like the half confidence, half what's the word? What's the opposite of confidence?
Pussy.
Half confidence, half pussy demeanor. Because I think David Justice makes a comment to him at some point, and he's like, "What's your biggest fear?" And Pratt says, a baseball going in my general direction.
Ha 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 ha. No, seriously.
And he says, for real.
Yeah.
or something to that extent.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Speaking of David Justice, I really like the interaction with Billy Bean. He says, oh, you think you're special, huh? And he's like, well, you're paying me $7 million a year. So yeah, I think I am. He's like, nah.
I ain't paying you $7 million a year.
Yankees are paying half your salary. They're paying you $3.5 million to play against them. That's what they think of you. And I'm like, damn, that's savage as fuck, dude.
And he's like not dissing him. He's using it as like motivation. Like, prove them wrong.
Yeah. He's saying like, he also mentions like, let's be honest about what we both want out of this. He says, I want to milk every last ounce of baseball that you got in you, and you want to stay in the show. Let's do that. It really drives home again, like, Billy Bean's all business. He's not afraid to be cutthroat, and it's another way they show it is the way he trades players. Like,
just cuts them like
straight
nothing.
up. You have to be like, for example, they buy Giambi's younger brother, Jeremy, and Jeremy's a fuck up.
Yeah, he's kind of a troublemaker.
And
he's on the weed, as one of the scouts says.
Yeah. They trade him away. He's like, Jeremy comes in. He's like, you want to talk to me? He's like, yeah, sit down. You've been traded to, and it's like it's so fast. He says,
one of my favorite scenes, actually.
You're a good ball player, and we wish you the best of luck. It's so savage, man.
That right there is one of my favorite scenes because it's the order of events that happens that makes it so funny. Because Art Howe won't stop playing Pena, right?
And they just trade away Pena.
So Bean goes in there and he says, listen, I want you to start Hattenberg instead of Pena tonight. And he says, well, this is my team. You know, I got to do what I can. And Bean says, no, you can't start him. He plays for the Tigers now.
Exactly.
And like Art Howe's all pissed off. And then Giambi walks in and then he cuts him right in front of Howe. Like, kind of just showcasing like, all right, we're going to do this my way now.
Exactly.
It's fucking great.
And that's coming off of the trade they make when they trade away Pena. It's the point where he looks at Jonah Hill and says, do you think we win more games with Hatteberg at first or Pena at first? And he's like, if in theory, Hatteberg. And he's like, then what are we talking about? Because, you know, Peter Brand is reluctant to trade away Pena, but he's like, we have to start Hatteberg because
we're not going to be able to do it.
And so we got to get rid of him. And it's like, I think it's the point in the movie where it's like, this is going to work. We just have to go all in. Like they've already been all in up until this point. They've just hit road bumps with the scouts not going along with it. The public, you know, we get like these small radio blurbs of people just shitting on like, you know, daytime talk radio, like, you know, AM radio, people just talking about like, this shit ain't gonna work. They're killing themselves down there in Oakland.
Well, they start the season like 4-17 or something. It's like absurd.
They're last place. I think like the way they showcase the all-in mentality is great because it's like a small snowball into like halfway through the movie. Like we're going all in. Fuck them all. It's just me and you, Pete.
The fact that we're bringing up so many quotes, like me and you have like quoted the movie a lot so far. The writer of this is Aaron Sorkin. Does that sound familiar to you at all?
Jog my memory.
He's done a bunch of movies, but he's most famous for writing The Social Network. He's really great at like dialogue-heavy movies with like kind of like a dryish humor and like very quippy and fast. And
the movie came out around the same time.
It did. It was either a year or two before this. He won an Oscar for it, I think.
That movie's great.
Yeah, it's a fucking great movie.
And it's one of the, and obviously Facebook is great for like, it changed the way we interface and everything. It was one of the first big social networks besides MySpace. I remember watching The Social Network when I was younger and still really liking it, even being that young. Those movies kind of almost feel the same in the same way, and I'm sure it has to do with the writing. Very slice of life, like a faux documentary.
It's like a topic that could be, like in theory, is the driest thing possible.
Yeah.
And then in execution, it's like...
masterful.
Yeah, it's like the best movie.
Yeah, this movie's written so well. Like, every point of dialogue doesn't feel wasted. Like, everything has, like, a really nice purpose.
I wanted to mention earlier, it doesn't feel like acting a lot of the time. It's kind of that Manchester by the Sea thing where, like, you feel like you're watching people... like slice of life, fly on the wall. I think you put it several ways. Just nobody in this movie feels like an actor.
No.
I mean, maybe besides, like, Pitt and Jonah... because they're
almost like their own brand.
They're
yeah.
huge superstars.
Yeah.
But like, especially in the scenes with like the scouts and stuff, it feels like they just took guys off the street or something. Like, I know that's not the case. It just feels so real.
One thing that I didn't really think about, speaking of writing, like the writing doesn't feel, while yes, it's a movie, it doesn't feel like a movie dialogue. When you strip dialogue back, sometimes it kind of can be corny, and it depends on the way it's executed. But dialogue sometimes isn't the way we actually talk to each other, the way it's written for film. Maybe because the movie's so grounded in like a business world, you're in the middle of this machine. Maybe it helps improve the flow of dialogue and stuff. But to me, I've never felt like I was watching a movie. I mean, yeah, there's some points, like I know I mentioned on the last podcast, like be romantic about baseball. That would be like the only like tagline of like a film, like part of the movie I could think of. But even in that scene though, it doesn't really feel that cliche. Like it's done really well, like where I don't feel like I'm watching someone's, I don't know, you know.
Aaron Sorkin's really great at writing like monologue type stuff, which like Brad Pitt delivers a lot of. Brad Pitt's really good at delivering monologues, but even then, when he's doing that, his acting doesn't make it feel like, no, this is the big monologue of the movie. It still feels real. The writing and the acting go hand in hand. It's a very like collaborative process. I felt like I was listening. Here's another Fight Club tie-in. I felt like I was listening to Tyler Durden like deliver information to me whenever like Pitt was monologuing about stuff. Maybe that's just the way he talks. I don't know.
It doesn't feel like a movie. It's so weird the way it's executed. I mean, yeah, there are times where it does. Here's an example. Here's the way I guess I notice it's a movie. The way the camera zooms in this film is really funny.
I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's so aggressive.
Is it where like it establishes a shot
and then just pops in?
And then you get like a zoom in.
And it's like, there's not like a weird, it's not like a slow zoom in. It's like cut.
Yes.
Cut, splice, up close. And I guess like where it really like I noticed at the beginning, this is something we can talk about, at the beginning of the film where Billy's in the stadium listening to the game that's happening in New York, the way it just like zooms in on his hand real fast and zooms out real fast, and like you get this big establishing shot of him just sitting in the bleachers and stuff at the Oakland Stadium. That's like the first point where I was like, whoa, like what's happening here? It's kind of disorienting before you, like the way you kind of like get into the film, because the only time I ever noticed like being really disoriented when I was going into a film was Into the Spider-Verse, because the way that movie's animated is kind of like not standard. Movie's but animated in a really funky way.
It's like choppy.
And so it takes you minutes for your eyes to adjust to it. But I noticed it right from the get-go when I first watching that movie. But it took about 10 minutes for my eyes to like not pay attention to it anymore. It was this way with that film. Or it was that way with this film. Where I felt like, whoa, I was like being really disoriented right from the get-go. And then I didn't notice it, you know, because then he walks back down the hallway. And like one of the security guards is watching it on a TV. And he turns it off once he sees Billy coming because they just lost. And he's like, Art, put it back on. He's like, no, I'm good. It's like, seriously. Yeah, so like the way that it's shot, really disorienting, and like these quick zooms and stuff.
It's not like overdone though. This is a good looking movie.
Oh yeah, dude. Like it's so monotone, really muted gray palette.
That's really prominent, but there's a lot of like lens flare or like sun coming in or like lights from the stadium.
Something that I noticed is like, because it's mostly just character shots, like just people and their faces. I noticed immediately the film grain. Man, I love me some film grain. Like it gives it like,
makes it feel more dramatic.
Yeah. And I went and watched Dune in IMAX last weekend. It was such a huge screen. Man, you really got to just see the film grain. And it was just like, wow, this is so beautiful. First off, just a beautiful movie, you know. Can I just correct myself? I've said Denis Villeneuve like this whole time we've been doing the podcast. Anytime we reference him, it's Denis Villeneuve. That's how you say it.
That's probably an easy mistake to make then.
Yeah, because he's French. I had no idea. He's like French Canadian. But dude, that movie. If you want to go watch that movie, if you haven't watched it on HBO Max or something, I'm gonna go see it again before it goes out of theaters. I'm going to watch it here in the next few weeks again. If you want to go with me, let me know, because I don't know if Elizabeth will. We can go watch it.
I don't think my wife will even watch it for free on HBO.
Oh my God.
She's weird like that.
If you want to go watch it, let me know. I'll be more than happy to watch it again. But yeah, I love watching films for just like small little things. Like, man, the film grain looks so good in this movie. Like, I know it's like so subtle and you don't pay attention, but like, I love the character it adds. Because like some films are just shot digitally and you don't really get to see that shit. Yeah, man, it's great. The movie is really beautiful in like subtle ways. Like, this movie's so subtle in every aspect, like dialogue, acting. It feels so natural, like in every aspect. Like maybe the only thing that doesn't feel natural is maybe like those quick cuts into zoom in and stuff, but like it's done in a way where it doesn't become abrasive or intrusive to like your viewing experience. So yeah, man, the cinematography is absolutely incredible. And who directed this movie? I don't think we touched on that.
I was actually going to ask you that just now. It's Bennet Miller, and he's not super known. I've seen 2 of the 3 major films he's done.
You seen Foxcatcher?
I have. And I remember I didn't like it when it came out.
Isn't the movie about wrestling?
It's about, amateur wrestling.
Yeah.
It's got like Channing Tatum and Steve Carell in it. It was an Oscar-winning.
Oh, I remember it now.
And I think Steve Carell and Mark Ruffalo both got acting nominations in the Oscars the year it came out. For some reason, I didn't like it at the time. I don't know. It was 2014. I saw it when it came out, so maybe my view on it would change if I watched it now. Capote, I think, is the other one he did. Phillip Seymour Hoffman is in that one. It seems like Bennet Miller has a thing for true stories.
Yeah.
All 3 of his movies so far have been that, and outside of that, he's done only documentaries.
Yeah.
So
Which makes sense.
He's good at telling a retelling of dramatic events.
I guess the only times where I feel like the movie really hones in on like big scale cinematography shots is like in the baseball stadium. Especially at the beginning and stuff, we kind of get to see like an outlook onto the field through the stands and stuff, like an empty baseball field. You get to see when he goes at the end, the Red Sox stadium. Oh man, that is a freaking beautiful shot. Yeah, man, it's just, the movie is subtle in every aspect, even like cinematography, storytelling, like even thematic things are shown subtly. And let's get into that. Like the daughter relationship he has, the relationship with his daughter, I should say, it's small and like it's not a huge part we get to see a lot. It's kind of funny because we get to see Billy Bean be so serious and blunt and all that, like straight up with people in the baseball world. But when he's with his daughter, he wants to be like
the nicest, coolest guy.
And like he's making her a hot fudge sundae, you know, like I feel like we get to see him let his guard down, and this like happens in like the middle of all the bullshit happening in the baseball world. But when he takes his daughter to the instrument shop, like the music shop, and she plays the guitar for him, it's like so subtle. And it's where you get to see him let his guard down and like the emotion run through. And she plays him a song in the middle of the shop, and like you can tell he's just crushed by the way his daughter's playing this song. Yeah, man, this scene's really nice, and it's so fast. It happens real quick.
It's a nice character moment. I really like that. Cracking open another stout.
I'm ready to die.
That'll probably be my next beer. I'll save the last one for later.
You did say this looks like velvet, and it looks amazing.
Oh yeah,
it looks like a chocolate shake.
Woo! We've talked about acting, cinematography, the writing. You know what? I want to talk about the music in this movie.
I played this for you last time we hung out.
And I remember you played it, and I'm like, this is super familiar.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple melody.
It's like a repeating chord progression.
And like for context reasons, the song is played by a band called This Will Destroy You.
And it will destroy you. It's so good.
Perfect band name. It's they play like post-rock, like very dramatic, cinematic, that kind of rock. And the movie uses this motif repeated over and over again. It's just this repeated guitar.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
With like this delay on it. And you could put that song for any scene.
Oh, man.
And like it doesn't matter what emotion the scene is trying to get across. The song will elevate it. Because you can see it as kind of like a somber thing. That kind of feels a little sad. But then like they play it during the triumphant moments too. and it kind of works both ways perfectly.
This is something I wanted to talk about. I almost completely forgot about it. Like, it does feel melancholic at times in certain settings throughout the film, but when it's triumphant, man, it fucking crushes me in a way that, like, you wouldn't expect out of something so simple sounding. Like, usually you would think of something like in like a traditional film score, you would have like, yes, a lot of film scores have like the same motif, like a theme, and sometimes they'll make variations on that theme to like convey different emotions throughout the film. But in this film, it's pretty much the same, and I don't think it changes at all. The way it just kind of feels like you've arrived at the end, It feels like, especially like at the end of the streak where they win, like it is such a great release of emotion.
Yes.
In a very subtle way. And that's one of the reasons why this film, I was drawn to it, was just like the last freaking 20 minutes is just, it feels like once we hit the 20 wins, it's like, oh man, like we can relax and celebrate in our victory.
Almost.
But fucking Billy is like, nah, bro, we can't be happy. We have to win the last game. He's so caught up in the last game.
Well, he's got a point though.
It's true.
If you don't win the World Series,
no one gives a shit.
You get written off, yeah.
And then it's quite funny. They get eliminated again, and they do write them off.
Oh, dude, the way they portray them getting eliminated is done in such a nonchalant fashion.
It's like the end of Avengers Endgame, or like the end of Infinity War. Well, like everybody starts dissipating into dust when Thanos snaps everybody out of existence. Everybody fades away. It's like that. It's like in this film, it shows, I can't remember, I think it's Milwaukee maybe, whoever beats them.
It's like Milwaukee or like Massachusetts or something. I can't remember.
They show them celebrating, and then they, like, everybody slowly fades out into like in the empty stadium. It is so nonchalant. It's almost like it doesn't even matter that they lost. And I think it's a good point.
It doesn't almost.
The film is kind of through Billy Bean's eyes. In his mind, the win is what matters. He wants to change the game. That he makes that point to Jonah. He makes that point to Peter Brand, like, look, if we lose, all this will be for nothing. They'll write us off. And it's just true, they do right from the get-go. And the film kind of touches on at the end, like through like the faux documentary style, like text prompt at the end and everything, talking about, well, he did change the game. Because, Billy Bean gets to go and he interviews with, or not interviews, but he gets an offer from the Red Sox to be their GM for like $12.5 million.
The most of any general manager in
all of sports.
Yes.
The Red Sox end up winning the World Series 2 years later, implementing the same Bill James type mentality of business. But in Billy's mind, he just wants to win, and he doesn't see that from the get-go. And it's...
I think I know where you're going with this.
Where am I going with it?
Well, there's the scene where Jonah Hill shows Billy Bean the video.
The metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
And it's something that, like, we don't, like, I don't think is a big focal point, but Jonah Hill's character, Peter Brand, still loves baseball. He's always at the games when Billy wasn't. He still watches the games. He's here for it's still the love of the game.
It seems like it's been beaten out of Billy.
And I could imagine so. Like, could you imagine, like, your whole life you've loved baseball, and once you finally made it to where you always dreamed of being, you failed? You don't want to watch a baseball game, but it's your life and you must deal with it. And Peter Brand, he like watches the games, and he kind of explains to Billy, like, this is kind of why he loves baseball in a way. Like, how can you not be romantic about baseball? This is that scene where bigger boy, this bigger baseball player, not particularly athletic looking at all, slightly overweight. He hits a home run, but in his mind, he's the guy that never runs to second base. He's afraid to run to second base, but he does what he never does, and he decides to go for it and turn to second and run to second. But he falls. He trips and falls as he rounds first base.
And he crawls to first base.
And Peter Brand says, this is all of his nightmares coming true. But what he doesn't see is that he's hit a home run. And then Billy says, oh, they're laughing at him. He's like, and here's why. Because he doesn't realize that he's hit a home run. And he says, it's a metaphor. He's like, I know it's a metaphor. Like, which is something, like, I still have a hard time really nailing down the moral of the story. But to me, it feels like Is Billy afraid to run to second base? Did Billy hit the home run? Did he not see it? Because in his mind, the goal is only one thing, but he actually changed the game, but he doesn't like celebrate that victory because all he's thought about from the beginning is winning the World Series.
It's kind of hard to nail down. He thought that winning the World Series would change the game, but if they didn't win, it'd write them off, and the whole like statistics thing would go out the window.
Yeah.
But they lost, and they still changed the game. And it's kind of even shown...
And they got the 20 win streak, which was something that hadn't happened in 100 years.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter to him.
The World Series was kind of like a red herring. Because he even says, like, you win the World Series, you get a ring, you celebrate with champagne, and then, like, baseball moves on. And that's kind of even shown in the way they portray that last game where they lose. You don't see any of that game except for the play that loses it.
Yeah.
Like they're like on their third out and someone catches the ball when they hit it. And like, that's the end. And it moves on immediately because baseball just keeps going, you know, like you win the World Series and now it's like, all right, how do we win the World Series next year?
Yeah.
It's a never ending process. And I think the movie puts that across real well.
And I'm sure the movie takes liberties and like it's still like based on a true story. But he also like he gets a call from his ex-wife on the 20th win game, like in the middle of it, and she like lets him know that they're really proud of him. And like even like when we first got introduced to Sharon, his ex-wife, and her husband, like it was like kind of like this like weird interaction of like like you'll figure it out, you always figure it out, kind of like this awkward tension of like Billy's used to failing and they're used to Billy failing. That's just the norm. But then like he got a moment of his ex-wife saying, you did a good job. Like, we're really proud of you.
And that means a lot to him.
Yeah. His daughter, like, sings him a song and puts it on a CD and stuff. And, like, that's how we end the film and stuff. It feels like he's the guy that never, like, stops to smell the roses, you know? He's so driven to win the World Series. He doesn't, like, ever stop to, like, say, hey, man, I'm actually, like, I'm doing pretty all right. And Peter wants him to see that. And it's kind of funny. And it's almost, like, a bittersweet that he doesn't take the deal for $12.5 million. You know, maybe in his head, he feels like, I like this dump. I like this shitty team. It gives him purpose and like it gives him drive. And like he actually did change the game in a way. It just, to me, it feels like he's the character that can't just chill. Like this guy needs to smoke some dope or something. Like just fucking chill for a minute. You know what I mean?
He needs to get on the weed.
He gets get on that weed with old Jeremy Giambi.
I
mean, do you share the same sentiment?
Yes. Absolutely. It's very bittersweet because you kind of feel like when the movie ends, depending on who you are, like your personality, you might view the ending a little bit differently. Like, they didn't win. They went nowhere. Or they changed the fucking game. That was like the whole point.
You ever heard the expression like it's about enjoying the process?
Yes. It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of mentioned throughout he says, it's a process, it's a process, it's a process while he's talking to the players and stuff. Yeah, man, it's a process. But he's like the guy that never like sits back to reflect on the process or like enjoy the process. Like it's all about the goal that he never gets. But the process was the whole movie and they didn't win the World Series, but the process was like really enjoyable to watch. And like it feels very triumphant even though they didn't win. It feels like life is a process. You're always learning, and once you think you'll arrive at a destination, you're not like there always will be something. There will be like a carrot hanging in front of your face, you know?
I agree that his choice of staying in Oakland kind of feels like a failure, but I think it's like the better choice for him. He's closer to his family.
Yeah.
And it's even like shown in the CD that his daughter leaves him, where she's like, well, if you go to the Red Sox, like, thanks for being my dad, I guess.
Yeah.
I know she's being sarcastic, but like, there's a little bit of truth there.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to leave her because like that's one of the things that keeps him grounded.
It's
like,
a longer plane flight for her to come see him and stuff.
I think it's best said by the guy that he meets at the Red Sox stadium, where he says like, the first guy through the door always gets the bloodiest. You feel this loss, but like you don't realize you changed it. And that kind of goes into what we've been talking about the last few minutes.
It's funny that you mentioned that because sticking to my cryptocurrency enthusiast mentality, a lot of governments like don't really like Bitcoin. Like China hates Bitcoin, and even the U.S. government isn't the hugest fan of it publicly because it challenges the normal economic standards of traditional banking and traditional finance. And the way money is transacted through countries and peer-to-peer, sending money between each other, it's a different store of value. It's like something that's not really understood. It's like brand new, you know? It's like a new technology. It's like smartphones when they were first introduced. Like it's like gimmicky, or like it's a new technology that's not been adapted yet. But the first guy through the wall or the first guy through the door is always the bloodiest. Like when you want to innovate, Elon Musk, for example, you know, Tesla almost went bankrupt, and like all the other car manufacturers, they wrote off electric cars, electric vehicles. Now they're trying to keep up with Tesla, and Tesla's never advertised on TV. They don't get all these endorsements and stuff, but everybody knows that Teslas are great cars, and they've done it in like non-traditional standards of practice for a company. And Elon Musk is one of the richest men in the world now. Amazon, you know, we can meme up about Jeffrey Bezos, but like everybody thought it was stupid that you would just like ship direct to customer. You wouldn't go through a store and stuff like to sell books. Like that's unheard of.
Now it's like the biggest fucking thing ever.
Exactly. The first guy through the wall is always the bloodiest, but you change the game. When you challenge change to a traditional system, everybody hates you until that's their new normal. This movie is really ahead of its time.
I think to like get the most out of this movie, you might have to ignore Billy Beane after the events of the movie.
Yeah.
Because he never got that big win.
Nah.
He's still chasing it till this day. And it says on one of the title cards, from what I read, it looks like the Athletics did really well the next couple of years. And like Art Howe like coached them to like, I can't remember what it was, like 100, 200 wins in like a 2 or 3 year span. But they never got the big one. And I wonder if he still feels that today.
I don't know, man.
I think he's in football now. He's got some kind of management position for the Browns.
Oh, really?
Cleveland Browns right now. And they're kind of
They're a B team, bro. Like they're not like some big in the running.
they're like better than they were a couple years ago.
Same with Cincinnati right now. Cincinnati Bengals are playing pretty well, but they just lost to the Jets. The Jets were shit. They were like 1-6 going into that game, and they got beat by the Jets, and it was like kind of a big deal that they lost. I don't know. Sports are weird, man. Here's a thought for you. Why the fuck do we like we are driven for competition, and like sports are just like a way for us to like have competition. Like it's just people against each other
Without participating.
Yeah, like it's so weird. It's just a weird thing, like the way society is structured. Sorry, it's a little bit of a high thought for you, but I don't even like baseball. I hate, if you ever watch baseball on TV, like, nah, no thank you. Like it's fun to go to a game and stuff every so often, but like I've been to like one football game, one Cincinnati Bengals game like years ago.
I never do that stuff.
It's just,
I saw the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh
What?
when I was a kid.
it's so random.
I was going to Niagara Falls for vacation, and we stopped in Pittsburgh and saw a Pirates game. And that's like the extent of my baseball experience right there. Never been to a Bengals game. FC Cincinnati, nothing like that.
I really like watching soccer though. I love some soccer. But I'm not like an avid fan or anything, but if it's on, dude, I'm all about it.
That seems like it'd be more of my thing. That's more like nonstop action kind of, and especially after just watching Ted Lasso. On Apple.
I know you
TV.
like that shit.
It's like one of my favorite shows ever. Like right off the bat, that's something I can get into.
Is there anything else you want to talk about this movie?
I mean, like, unless we, like, pinpointed particular scenes, like, I know there's, like, certain scenes we didn't talk about, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the stuff we've already said about, like, the acting and the writing. The last day that you're able to draft somebody, that scene's really great, where Brad Pitt's, like, balancing all these phone calls and, like, can't remember.
Shit's fun as fuck.
He's trying to trade, or get a guy named Anderson, and he, like, keeps calling him Michelson.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever. You don't even know who this guy is. Like, how can you say you like him? Like, all that stuff is so fun. But, like, other than that, I mean, like, outside of the perimeters of what we've already talked about, I don't know. Unless you got something for me.
I'm good, man. I just know I love this movie. I think we touched on, like, the main points I wanted to get at. If you had to, like, rate the movie, what would you give it?
For me, I'm going to go a very, very strong 9. This might be an instant favorite and one that, like, in the coming years, I'd return to and maybe enjoy more.
This is a movie that I think I would suggest this. Like, if I knew somebody didn't watch it, I've never seen it before, I'd be like, I'm gonna point you in this direction. This is a movie it's like almost feels like non-traditional in a way. Simple on paper, executed flawlessly and masterfully. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I think it kind of reminds me of, this is random, but like The Lighthouse. I don't think about The Lighthouse a lot. Like, it's not a movie I think about in a way where like, oh, it's one of my favorite movies. And same with like Blade Runner 2049. I literally have only seen Blade Runner 2049 one time.
But it stuck with you.
But it stuck with me so much. And every time I watch this movie, I'm left with the same feeling every time I watch it, which to me indicates that it holds up over time and it achieves the goal that it was trying to achieve. Whether I receive the goal that it was trying to achieve directly, or I view it in a way that is impactful and lasting to me. The movie's like great, simple, basic score, basic, simple, practical shots. The movie's not about baseball, but it's the running, thematic, driving quality of the film. The acting's incredible. Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt, Brad Pitt. Yeah, man, this movie is like kind of like larger than life in a way.
Dude,
I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
I might rescind my rating right away.
Do it, man.
It's a really, it's a flawless movie.
I never look at something and I'm like, I don't like that. I'm not like, I never say no.
There's never a weak point, like in storytelling, acting, nothing like that.
Every scene matters, and it's like purposeful, even if it's small.
I think there's a natural part of me that wants to like rebel against it because, one, I don't like baseball. Two, I hate math. But it takes what I consider to be a very dry subject and make it feel like it's the most important thing in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a flawless execution. And like I can't find a way to say this one thing wasn't working for me.
You can't say no.
It made me invested in something I don't give a fuck about.
Exactly.
It's the Ford versus Ferrari effect.
I
don't know if you've ever seen that.
I know you've seen it, yeah.
I hate cars and I hate racing, and that's a great movie. This is a 10. This is definitely a 10, dude.
Yes. Hell yeah, man.
It's fantastic.
Piss break.
Give me it, boy. Give me the thing.
All right.
Not the thing. We already watched that.
So this is a movie that we're going to do next. It's something I watched before I rewatched Moneyball. And when I decided that I was going to pick this, I watched Moneyball. And I realized that my choice has a lot in common with yours. Based on a true story. I talked about this with you the last time you were over here.
I don't remember.
All right, good.
Good. Okay, good.
It's you know that one of my favorite directors, maybe my favorite director of all time, is David Fincher.
Oh shit.
He's
haven't done a Fincher film yet.
He's done some really great stuff. He's done Fight Club and Seven, Gone Girl, to a lesser extent, I guess, like Benjamin Button and stuff like that. But he did a movie about the Zodiac Killer.
Oh fuck yes.
And I think this is my favorite film by him.
We did talk about this last time.
And there's a lot of commonalities between the Fincher thing and the Bennet Miller. Aaron Sorkin and like Brad Pitt. Billy Bean's wife in the movie was Robin Wright, who starred in House of Cards, which was a Fincher project.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't direct all of it, but it was kind of his brainchild. He does the series Mindhunter now on Netflix, which is great. If you ever get the chance, watch that show. Zodiac.
I've never seen it. Oh, hell yeah, dude.
It's kind of underrated. It didn't do that well in the box office when it came out.
It's like a cult classic now, though, right?
Sorta. I think it deserves more appreciation. It's got Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and one of my favorite actors of all time, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Ah, yeah, dude. Jake Gyllenhaal is the fucking best.
It's a long movie, just like Moneyball, as in the topic is kind of the backdrop for a character drama.
And there probably feels like there's no conclusion at the end of this film either. I'm hyped.
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but yes, if you know anything about the Zodiac Killer, that's...
hell yeah, dude.
And you know what? They just announced that they had found some like evidence that they know who the Zodiac Killer is. And I read into it a little bit, and
it hasn't been confirmed, confirmed.
It doesn't sound right to me. I think the movie gets down to the bottom of who it might be even better.
Okay, fuck yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Yeah. It's
Dude, I'm hyped as fuck.
one of my all-time favorites, and I hope that it's something that you can get into.
I love films like this because we've talked about it before, but the movie Prisoners,
Great movie.
I love movies that, because I do not like murder mystery shit like at all, because
What?
it fucks with me real bad. Like it fucks with me bad because I have to like recognize that's another human being.
Oh yeah.
But like I like when it's done really well. Hell yeah, dude. I'm hyped.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by this film.
All right, dude. Well, this was a lot of fun. Sign these motherfuckers out.
Adios.